Welcome back to another edition of the Backyard Sports Talk. We have all of our SummerSlam news and reactions coming up in this episode, as well as all the MLB trade deadline stuff that we didn't get to last week. We have been away for a little while, but we are now back. Training camps are on their way, and NFL season is just right around the corner. We had the kickoff of the preseason in last week with the Hall of Fame game. Then we will have more of that coming up, and super excited about that. We got college football coming up soon. So there's so much sports news buzzing here right now. So we're gonna go ahead and get into it. And first, I'm gonna turn it over to Dad and let him kind of give his little tribute to one of the greats, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that's right. Well, while we were gone on vacation, and ironically, we were in Hulk's home state. He passed away. Very unexpected, or at least for the world, it was very unexpected. And it's kind of an emotional thing. It kind of is for me because he was the person that put wrestling on the map on the big time TV. Not just wrestling like it was on KPLR on Sunday mornings or Saturday nights, the way it used to be, which was fun. But I mean, he put it on USA Network, NBC on the week on Saturday night, and so he made it a big. It made it big, and I know that to to understand this a little better, I think that Hogan and Vince were kind of like Tom Brady and Belichick. The both of them were responsible for what they did. They both needed each other. They both fed off of each other. But again, it's a very sad day, sad time that Hulk has left us. We got lots and lots of videos we can watch of him. Lots of matches, thanks to the NFL, the WWE library, and they have both, from the WWE and WCW in their library. So there's a lot of stuff there, a lot of things to bring, to we can honor him with. Um, he I, he was a very good, he was a Christian man. I know there were some things that came up about him, but you know, the death is not the time to talk about that. And as far as I'm concerned, those things were forgiven. But anyway, I just hope that everybody, can bow their head and say a prayer for the family. But Hulk was a big deal, and I was a huge wrestling fan, and he brought it to big TV, where you could see it on the big channels, on prime time. It was a big deal. So may he rest in peace and in paradise is where I believe he is. So anyway, thanks a lot, Hulk. Let's move on.
And now we're going to get into the big SummerSlam. It was the first ever two-night event, and let me tell you, a lot of stuff went down. There's a lot to get to, so we're going to go ahead and start now. First kicked off SummerSlam was a tag team with the Bloodline duos versus the um, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed duo. Roman Reigns and Jey Uso defeated the Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, whatever Paul Heyman is calling his new little group. I don't know exactly what he's planning on calling them, or if he's got a true name for them, but the Bloodline duo there took a big win. The next match was Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross, and this is not in any kind of big order or anything. This is just kind of going off of what we have here set. Anyway, Sami Zayn got a much needed singles victory over Karrion Kross, and more to come on Karrion Kross after a bit. The women's tag team championship was Alexa Bliss defeating Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez. The Judgment Day and becoming the new champions. They were not friends then. They could be friends now. All we know is they are the women's tag team champions. Tiffany Stratton beat Jade Cargill and retained her women's championship and a match for the ages. And this one was a definite match for the ages, as for the World Heavyweight Championship, CM Punk defeated Gunther and become the new championship holder. And for at least 5 minutes, as Punk was holding his belt high above everybody else, celebrating his victory, music starts and somebody returns. It is Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins walks in his crutches, did not think that was going to see anything. He turns around, heads back towards the back, throws his crutches away, takes his brace off, runs to the ring, cashes in his Money in the Bank on CM Punk, and defeats CM Punk and becomes the new World Heavyweight Champion. And the undisputed WWE Street Fight was another match for the ages. Was definitely, in my opinion, much better than the WrestleMania match. John Cena, who we saw a face turn last Friday night on SmackDown, comes in and loses to Cody Rhodes in the rematch. Cody Rhodes is the new champion. Once the match is over in an unbelievable street fight, a major return happens. Brock Lesnar returns. He attacks Cena, gives him an F5, and walks away, leading much speculation that when could that match happen? Could it happen sooner than later or later than sooner? We'll find out. We'll talk about it here in just a minute. And the Women's World Championship, the triple threat, Naomi, who cashed in a while back and cashed in to make a triple threat initially a couple of weeks ago, had a triple threat from the beginning, and she beat Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. What a great match. The Intercontinental Championship, Dominic Mysterio defeated AJ Styles, which could have been one of AJ's last runs with the Intercontinental Championship, but the way things looked, it looks like that this could be a potential rematch either at Clash in Paris or later on in the fall. And the Women's Intercontinental Championship, it was a no DQ match. So this means that Becky Lynch defeated Lyra Valkyria as Bayley interferes, accidentally helps Lynch win. And what does this leave for Lyra? Part of Lyra's deal was if she loses, she cannot challenge Becky while Becky is still champion. So we'll see how that goes. And the steel cage match for the United States champion, Solo Sikoa, defeated Jacob Fatu to retain his title. And finally, my opinion, the match of the whole weekend, saving it the last to talk about, was the WWE Tag Team Champion for SmackDown in a TLC 6-pack challenge. The Wyatt Six get their championship, defeating the Street Profits, DIY, Fraxium, Andrade and Phoenix, Motor City Machine Guns. And that was your SummerSlam weekend. Now, Dad, we're gonna go through here, and I'm sure you're kind of itching to start talking a little bit about something. So,
can I say something real fast?
Wherever you want to start.
I want to say something about what's going on right now on AEW. Mercedes Moné has 6 championship belts.
Yeah.
4 of them's hanging off of her. She's carrying 2. So before we go and get back to our itinerary, you don't explain that? I think that's worth talking about.
So I don't know the full explanation, and
I've never seen so many belts in my life.
Well, she's it's a couple of different promotions. Ring of Honor, I think, is one, and then a couple of other
TNA
ones.
maybe.
No, AEW is not part of TNA.
Okay, they were for a while. They were working back and forth for a while.
Well, not anymore because that's WWE's territory. So I don't know the exact.
Maybe
so
it's NWA or MLB. They're not MLB. What's the other one?
MLW.
MLW or one of them.
I think it's one of them is New Japan Wrestling,
okay.
and then they have another promotion in Mexico.
And she is a very good wrestler.
Yes,
There's no question.
Yes.
Anyway, I just thought that was worth bringing up and mentioning.
Can I
there.
ask you something though?
Mhm.
You have bad ADHD.
No, it was on. I was watching it.
Yeah, you were watching it, but I'm here sitting here explaining what's going on, and you're just going off to something completely different, man.
But
All right,
anyway,
so where do you want to hop in on SummerSlam?
Well, I'll just say a few things. I do agree with you. The tag team championship was crazy. That was one of the craziest matches I've seen. It was good, but it was just really. How long did that thing last? I'm not sure how long. It was a pretty good while.
It was a good while,
but it was just all over the place. And I don't think the last I heard, I checked on it. I don't think anybody got hurt. I'm surprised.
Right. I want to say that Candice LeRae is a trooper for taking that fall from the top of the ladder onto another ladder, splitting the other ladder in half.
Yes. Yeah, that was crazy.
That was a crazy event, and glad she's okay. She posted on her Instagram where she said she was fine and everything was good. So I'm glad to hear that, but that was a crazy fall.
I think night one, obviously night two was a little better. I heard a lot of people saying that, but I thought night one was good too, though. There were some people who said, I read that maybe night one wasn't necessary to even have, but I think night one was good. I think obviously night two was better, but I thought night one was good matches myself.
I think night two was definitely better, but night one was necessary because we needed the end to the Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross thing. We needed to have the women's tag team champion match, and then we also needed to have the women's champion match in with Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill. So there was a lot of definite that needed to happen. And of course, the World Heavyweight Championship with CM Punk and Gunther.
And that was a good match.
That was a fantastic match.
And you got to give Punk for his age.
Absolutely.
He's got to have himself in pretty good shape.
Absolutely. So some more on that. Gunther, it was announced on Monday Night Raw that Gunther is out indefinitely due to some type of facial injury. During the match, he I don't know what kind of spot it was, but he ended up coming up from one of the tables bleeding really bad, and after the match he just kind of disappeared. We didn't see much of him.
It was a nose thing, wasn't it?
Something in the nose, Gore-Tex or something. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with what all of that is called. Anyway, so we hope and pray that he has a full recovery in whatever injuries he might have. Moving on there. So another one that I wanted to discuss was Karrion Kross and Miss Scarlett. So after Saturday, these two, the lovely couple, has seemingly disappeared from WWE. Their contracts are up this weekend. So leading a lot of people to speculate that these two are not going to re-sign with WWE. And I think that you're losing a lot if you don't re-sign them, because that the whole feud with Sami Zayn, I think, was a fantastic feud that went on for several weeks, and it wasn't a mainstream, a main card feud that you could have had as a main event or a world championship, but it was a fun match to see. And anytime you see Sami Zayn in a match, that he's going to give you 110% effort.
Absolutely.
So I thought this was a phenomenal feud, and I hope Karrion Kross and Miss Scarlett the best. Hopefully they will find employment at another promotion if it's not WWE. I hope they do return to WWE, but we will see what happens from there.
What was you? You know, I don't want to mess up your itinerary here, but give us your best and worst match of SummerSlam.
Okay, so my best match was I'm going to say the tag team championship. I thought the tag team championship was phenomenal. The worst match, it was the steel cage match for the United States Championship, because I'm a little bit like Jesse Ventura. You should not be climbing right out the front door to end the match.
No, it should be pinfall or submission, and that's something that WWE came up with on them. But I agree with you on the tag team, the TLC. Uh, the one thing I think I'm probably the most disappointed in the women's world title match.
Really?
Man, I see some. There's some things, and I like her. I don't want to be picking on her, but Jade Cargill's there's some sloppiness in her. She misses a lot. Yeah, her timing's not right. She's got the look, man. She looks like a badass. She's got the look, and she's all that. She just really needs to sharpen her skills up in the ring. Have you not noticed that there's a lot she misses? Her timing gets off, and Tiffy did a good job and kept her and carried her pretty good. But there's a lot. You know, go back and look at Punk. Go back and look at Cena or Cody about timing and how they're on things, and then watch her. You know, and I'm not saying it's not fixable, but she does have the look, and she's strong. I think she's very strong, but she just sometimes she misses a lot. And trust me, I guarantee the Hunter's watched seeing that.
I've noticed a little bit of that, and I don't want to sit here and speculate, but potentially that's why she didn't win this weekend. I don't know what's going on there. I hope she does do good, but like you said, she does have the look. She looks like a very strong lady. So I'm really curious to see what goes on with that ordeal, and maybe she can get something fixed. And so let me ask you this: who's her next feud? Because she's kind of, unless she wants a rematch with Tiffany, does she move on from Tiffany and say, "All right, I'm just gonna go talk. I'm just gonna go talk to my old friend Naomi, who kind of stabbed me in the back."
I think unless I would probably suspect she will drop back mid card until she can sharpen up her skills. Because to be in the top, the main events like that, I just see a lot of things that she's missing. That's not how WWE got big,
Right.
And I think that she's very capable. But I expect that you'll see her drop back in mid card for a while, and I bet they're going to put her some time in the performance center.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Just to sharpen somebody's
No,
skills.
not at all.
Um.
And whether you like it or not, somebody's got to be mid card.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm coming up here in at the end of the month in Clash in Paris, Stephanie Vacure, and
Very, very talented.
who she wrestles? Is it Naomi or is it Tiffany? I think it's
I
Naomi.
think it's Naomi, and that's another one. I don't want to interfere with you, but while we were talking about Jade Cargill, Naomi's another one that had kind of went backwards for a while, and was almost mid card, and she's worked her way back up. Hunter even said that.
Right. I do agree with that. she has put in the work.
Yes, and
And
Hunter brought that out.
and another one that is really put in the work and I really respect, and that is Stephanie Vacure.
Mm-hmm.
Is a year ago most people didn't know who she was, but she had a good successful title run in NXT, and then once she finally got main card, she's done nothing but
she's so precise.
Succeed. Yes,
her timing's good. She's got it all. She'll be in the main event, in the main events.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, she's got the one main event, or I don't know if it's technically a main event, but it is a match that's going to happen in Paris.
The one thing that's kept Jade Cargill where she's at is she's over pretty good, decent. So
yes,
but just you got to in WWE, you got to be over. You got to have good skills in being over and selling merchandise.
Right. So now let me ask you this. I know you want to continue to speculate on that. That's fine with that, but let me take you down this rabbit hole. Do you think after the Clash in Paris that we see a potential run between Jade and Naomi, or do we see the return of Bianca Belair to have a feud with Naomi? Because they all three of them ladies have history together.
I think Bianca will probably be back. That's what I'm guessing. Like I said, I expect Cargill to take a step backward to mid card, work on her skills. That's what I'm guessing, and work her. And I think she'll work her way back up because she's good. But I think there's some things she needs to sharpen up, and I think they'll bring Bianca back in. And how far are we from bringing Liv Morgan back in? Is she going to go singles, or is she going to go back tag team, or her tag team spot's been filled? And
I don't know. We're probably still 4 or 5 months from her return.
But I just wonder if she's going to go tag team, or is she able? I don't know if she's quite ready to go in singles, but
I mean, she's had 2 successful title runs in singles.
So you might see her back in the main event picture, and
here's something that I had kind of betting without putting money on things is that if she was healthy enough to return, that she would come back for the Royal Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
She would win the Rumble, and then she would get her opportunity at WrestleMania. But now, I mean, of course, you know how with kayfabe and everything, the Judgment Day was being interviewed. They still say she's 6 months away.
Well,
so
you never know anymore.
You never know, and I saw a comment. You don't believe anything, especially since the whole Seth thing happened.
I think there need to have been a storyline go with that, and they could have made it interesting with the Seth thing. Find him and something,
yes.
blah blah blah. I think they could have made it interesting, or make him have a special match, or something like that. Put him in a difficult situation. Yeah, I think that the women's is going to be kind of interesting because I'm not sure which direction they're going. The men you can kind of figure out. You can kind of look, but I'm not exactly sure where the women's going to. I did hear something else, and I'm not trying to be bah humbug, but this is worth talking about. Apparently, there probably won't be a women's only pay-per-view next year.
Really?
It wasn't as much of a success as they were hoping, apparently.
Oh, no, I thought it was a huge success.
They what I read, it wasn't, it was, I'm not going to say it wasn't a success, but not what they were hoping for it to be. They had an idea of what it needed to achieve to become an annual one, and apparently it fell under that a little bit.
See, anything and everything I read, it was really? It was successful.
Maybe we need to go back and do a little research on that. And WrestleMania mentioned that it was not successful too.
Huh. That's interesting.
The disappointment of it, they said, so anyway, it'd be interesting to go back. I enjoyed it.
Oh, I thought it was phenomenal.
But
PLE. So we got some news here about the Raw after SummerSlam. So at the beginning of the night, Seth Rollins comes in to gloat and is interrupted by LA Knight. Then Adam Pearce comes out and confirms a match later in the night and being the main event. So, as the main event is going on between LA Knight and Seth Rollins, towards the end of the match, CM Punk interferes and ends it in a DQ. And once both CM Punk and LA Knight are just kind of laying out, Roman Reigns returns. So, my question to you, and I've had this conversation with quite a few people, is this going to be a triple threat, just a one-on-one rematch with Seth and Punk, or are we going to do a full-blown fatal four-way at some point with LA Knight, Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Roman Reigns? Because all four of them were involved in this little situation. I think LA Knight is perfectly good enough to be in the main card. Seth Rollins is obviously champion. Punk does deserve a rematch.
Absolutely.
But Roman Reigns showed then that he's back into the title contention fight.
Okay, you want me to say what I think needs to be done, or say what I think will happen?
Think what will happen.
I think it'll be a 3-way or a 4-way match. But I'm going to say it anyway. I think it should not be, and I think it should be Punk and Seth in a cage, in a steel cage. That's what I think should happen. But it'll probably be the 3-way or 4-way that you're talking about. Is probably what will happen. And I'm not totally against that, but I just think that Punk deserves to have a one-on-one match because he was phenomenal the other night.
Oh, absolutely. I do agree. It was good matches, and I haven't seen a terrible match the last couple of weeks. So quickly moving on here, we got to get going. ESPN is buying an average of is paying an average of $325 million per year on a 5-year deal with WWE's PLEs beginning in 2026. Peacock had previously paid $180 million per year over a 5-year deal. So this meaning that all the premium live events, something that would not be on regular live TV, would go to ESPN, and you would have to buy a subscription for ESPN. I don't know what kind of subscription they're talking about. The subscription that anything I have seen, I'm still working on the research on that. It looks like to be $30 a month, and then you would have to subscribe to a potential cable network for the USA Network, and potentially try to tune into the CW for NXT, and as well as subscribe to Netflix for Raw. So, in an average year for all of this stuff in 2026, it's going to cost a mega fan in WWE nearly over $500 a year just to watch every match available. This is not including anything like I assume once you pay for the ESPN, you will also get the library. I don't know that far out yet. This is still a developing story that just broke today. There's going to be more on it later on in weeks to come, but I just wanted to get that thrown out there initially, that what this was looking like. And it is looking like the ESPN is set to officially launch their streaming platform for WWE at the end of the month with Clash in Paris. I still think you can watch it on Peacock until the end of the year, but they are going ahead and launch it early and probably try to get some extra months out of somebody who is probably, scared and whatnot. I don't know what they're planning on doing. I don't know if it's maybe an event to where they're wanting to start now, so then it don't start just like the Netflix event with the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson match, where you're sitting there for 2 hours and it is a frozen screen. So I don't know if they're wanting to do something like that. If they're, maybe if there's going to be any more potential viewerships on the ESPN side of things, and but that is what I've seen is going to launch at the end of the month. So we will go ahead and get your reaction from this, Dad. What do you think about this and having to pay nearly looks like over $500 a year to watch the WWE?
Well, I think they're certainly going to upset some people, because this goes, if you go back to the days of pay-per-view, once they got away from the pay-per-view and went with the NFL Network, you've seen a lot of things increase. People could watch it more affordably.
WWE Network.
What did I call?
NFL.
Oh, NFL. I'm sorry. WWE. I was reading something ahead here.
There is NFL Network news that is later to come. That's why he's got it on his brain.
Got it on my brain. I'm sorry, but during the earlier days of the World Wrestling Federation, the pay-per-views were $19.95, $29.95. I think WrestleMania was $49.95 maybe, and that got very expensive. Then once they came along with the WWE Network, and it was, I don't know, $12.99 a month or whatever it was, it became much more affordable, and I think their PLEs became even bigger. I think. I just hope they don't damage the product. You know what I'm saying? First off, it surprises me that Peacock was only paying $180 million a year for 12 PLEs.
Yeah.
That surely doesn't count WrestleMania.
I don't know. This was, of course,
there had to be more money involved in that, maybe above advertising.
Well,
or something
of course,
like that.
I don't know how all that worked, how the contract worked. I don't know if this is like post dating any kind of inflation or if ESPN is just mega rich since they dropped MLB.
Their contract for Raw is a lot bigger than that, and that's so I don't know. There's a lot about it I don't understand. I do like the business side of it. Wish I understood it better, but there's some things I don't understand. There has to be maybe that's a minimum. I don't know, but I will say, you asked me about my thoughts, and I'll finish up with this. This would not surprise me, but I thought it would be what you had previously said. I thought it would be Netflix.
Yeah. However, after continuing to do some reading, the UFC has been a part of the Disney universe for a couple of years now. So with WWE and UFC being pretty much had the same parent company,
Right.
it just makes so much more sense to where Disney's like, "Hey, TKO, we'll pay you X amount of dollars. We'll throw you on ESPN."
They own ESPN.
Yes,
because if you remember a few years ago, ESPN was in financial problem.
yeah.
So Disney bought them out then.
Disney owns ESPN and Hulu.
Okay, well that all makes more sense, but I just really think that the $516 a year is a problem. I think they're going in the long run. I think that'll hurt business. But
Yeah,
I guess we'll see what happens. But I think that they better test waters a little bit, because I think it will be bad.
yeah. I don't know, because I mean I think that you're gonna see a lot of, like you said, the fan outrage because of this. The average fan having to pay nearly $516 a year. That is a lot of money. Of course, I mean, I don't want to get political here, but things are a lot more expensive than what they were 20 years ago. And a lot, I mean, you can say a lot of um, salaries and what they pay has went up.
They're making. I guarantee that they're making more than they made 20 years ago.
I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about
Okay.
the average person.
Okay, I got you.
But with what I saw an accountant online who did all the math, and it is much more expensive and more difficult to live now than it was in 1985.
Yeah, I guess I could see it, and we've kind of got ourselves in a situation now where we have more, we require more. Nobody has cell
Right.
phones.
Right.
There were some people that had cable TV, but we didn't have all these internet subscriptions. Internet itself, there's so many other things that we've got. There wasn't Sirius Radio then. There's many other things. There wasn't NFL Sunday Ticket. There's so many things more that you can get yourself tied into now
Oh,
that there
absolutely.
wasn't in 1985.
Oh, I 100% agree with you with that. But I mean, even talking with housing prices and everything, everything has just gone way high.
Absolutely, and it all kind of starts with fuel. Look what fuel's done, and it goes back to building materials. It goes to everything to do with building materials, all the way up to the actual price of a house. Everything is higher.
Right.
Whether it's something you consume or if it's something that you buy for entertainment, or if it's a necessity, it's all higher.
Right. Discussing the new contract with ESPN and WWE, and then the total estimated cost is going to be around $516 a year. So we're just kind of going over that. So moving on quickly here, and I'll let you go ahead and discuss a little bit about the AEW scene that we've got going on here.
Well, we've took a little bit more of a proactive approach, I think, to AEW, which we really wasn't. Shame on us. If we're going to have a podcast, we need to kind of be with what's going on there. Man, they got some star power. Their booking, I think, lacks, but they got some star power. I see that Darby Allin has made a return. He was injured or was out or something, wasn't he? He wasn't there for a little while.
Yes.
And John Moxley has had a couple good matches, but he lost them, hadn't he? To Hangman Adam Page.
Mm-hmm.
Lost both of them. And the one that I saw was a good match. It was not a bad match at all.
The All In back last month was a phenomenal match,
yes.
too.
And Page has not. A lot of been people has kind of not liked him very much. He's not been, basically says he didn't want to take advice from older wrestlers and things like that, and that kind of hurt him.
I think I mean, no matter what kind of profession you're in, you've got to be able to take advice from the older generation
Absolutely.
that you work with. I mean, I'm not saying this. We're not only a sports talk podcast, but we can also talk reason with the normal person. So my thing is what I always tell people is I'm very good with constructive criticism. It may bother me. I may shut down for a little bit to myself, but I usually take constructive criticism well. And I think whatever kind of position you're in, whether you're scrubbing toilets, whether you're a top CEO, you need to be able to take some kind of constructive criticism in whatever you're doing. And I think I agree that Hangman Adam Page has a lot to learn from a guy like a John Moxley, or a guy, say, like a Chris Jericho, or I'm just mentioning
Or a Punk.
AEW guys. And well, they don't like to be associated with Punk anymore, so
No.
I didn't mention Punk. So that's just kind of where I was going with that,
Right.
is that. So, and so we have a pay-per-view coming up in the August 24th in London. It is Forbidden Door. So I guess this is It is not. I don't think exactly the same night, but I believe it is the same weekend as the WWE pay per view Clash in Paris. This one is in London, so it's trying to have some type of little bit of a rivalry here. I know Dad's argument is that it's not a rivalry, but they're trying to make it a rivalry, and you got to respect that. So Mercedes Moné is to defend the TBS title in a cross-promotion four-way featuring AEW, New Japan, Pro Wrestling Stardom, and CMLL competitors. And then Althena and Tony Storm for the AEW Women's Championship has been confirmed. And Okada and Swerve Strickland world title match now official. This is all going to happen on August 24th at the Forbidden Door in London, England.
I think
Draw a blank there.
I think that those are good matches. I think they're going to be really good matches. You know, I see that they had that when it last year they had the big London show and they sold out in 40 minutes or nearly sold out or sold 30,000 tickets in 40 minutes or something like that. So I don't know where they're at this year, but I think they're expecting a big show. But I think it's going to be, so people knows. Do we know anything about what the cost of that pay per view will be? Because that's becoming an old technology.
No, I don't know. I think it's $50.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money.
I could be completely wrong about that. It could be only 30. I don't know.
That's becoming an old technology now, pay per view. So I look in the future for AEW to start. I don't know what they'll do, but
shoot, they may end up signing with Peacock.
Yeah, they may.
Peacock may get mad with WWE for dropping them. They may say, "We'll show you. We'll dump into AEW,"
and they could get into AEW much cheaper than they did WWE. Peacock.
Oh, absolutely.
And it would do Peacock it would do AEW a lot of good. Peacock reaches a big audience.
Absolutely.
And it would really be.
Oh, for sure.
Big deal for AEW.
So just looking, Forbidden Door is August 24th, and Clash in Paris is August 31st. So there's literally a week difference there, but that's interesting to see there. So we're going to go ahead and move on to some MLB news. We had the Major League Baseball trade deadline happen last week, and there was several sellers, several buyers. We're going to get into the top sellers and top buyers. First of all, the Twins were the major sellers of the deadline. It was unbelievable what they did. They sold off like 11 players. So, okay, that's what happened with that. The Athletics were sellers. And then when we talk about the buyers, I think the biggest buyer of the deadline was the Padres. Padres ended up buying, and kind of just basically rebuilt their entire team and rebuilt their lineup. They did a great job. The Mets rebuilt back into their bullpen. So did the Yankees. The Yankees have not really worked out so well to begin the trade after the trade deadline, but it's a week removed. I'm not concerned with it, so we'll see how it goes moving on. And when we talk about the rest of the moves and the playoff picture, we'll kind of see where they are. So some big blockbuster moves that had happened. Carlos Correa was traded back to the Astros from the Twins. News that broke 3 days before the trade deadline that Carlos Correa was a potential trade market piece. However, he said he would only go to one place and one place only, his former home, the Houston Astros. They traded him. Twins sent over $33 million. The Astros sent a prospect back, and they have him for a guaranteed 3.5 years. Eugenio Suarez goes back home to Seattle after leaving Arizona in a big trade, and probably one of the biggest trades of the entire deadline was Mason Miller went from the A's to the Padres in a high impact trade for a top prospect, Leo DeVries. And this is potentially probably the biggest trade moving forward. We'll see how it works out. See how it works out with what the Dodgers did, because the Dodgers deadline was very disappointing. And there was a lot of other teams that kind of had a little bit of disappointment to their run there. So I think the Padres definitely won the deadline and definitely did a lot of good. And a potential that could be, I agree with the Toronto Blue Jays, is there's an ex general manager that said the steal of the deadline could be from the Toronto Blue Jays. They acquired starting pitcher Shane Bieber from the Cleveland Guardians. I'm a huge Bieber fan. Shane, not Justin. So I'm a huge fan of Shane Bieber. He has been a phenomenal pitcher back in 2020, the pandemic season, in 60 games. In a 60-game sprint, he won the Triple Crown. He had great numbers. Of course, it was only through like 12 starts. I understand that. But the guy is phenomenal. And once he returns from injury in Toronto, he's going to be very good. And that could potentially be the biggest piece traded at the deadline, would be probably the biggest steal. The Mets revamped their bullpen, adding talent like a seller of the Cardinals, Ryan Helsley, a Tyler Rogers, and Cedric Mullins. The Yankees overhauled their bullpen by acquiring David Bednar, Camilo Doval, name a few. It hasn't really worked out so far in the first week. Do I have any concerns with that? Absolutely not. It is still very early. Of course, it is not very early in the season, but when you talk about the trades, you need probably at least 2 weeks away, because I mean, you can't you just imagine if somebody who is working at a company magically leaves and goes to another company. They're going to have some hiccups because you're in a new environment, new supervisors. So there's always that aspect of things, because yes, this is a sport, but it's, at the end of the day, it's also their jobs. So, they do have, this is their job, just like, everybody else has jobs. But, what you could have that kind of a little bit of a hiccup there. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the current MLB standings, and this is as of August the 6th, and at 8 o'clock at night. I don't know if there's any current games still going on. They should have already been played. But starting in the American League East, the Toronto Blue Jays are in first place at 68-48. The Boston Red Sox are at 64-51. The New York Yankees are 61-54. The Tampa Bay Rays are at 57-59. And in last place, probably the most disappointing year is the Baltimore Orioles, in last place at 52-63. In the American League Central, in first place is the Detroit Tigers at 66-50. The Cleveland Guardians at 59-55. The Kansas City Royals, who ended up being buyers at the deadline, are 56-58. The Minnesota Twins, who are the biggest sellers at the deadline, are 54-60. And in last place is the Chicago White Sox at 42-71. Moving to the American League West, you got the Houston Astros at 64-51. Seattle Mariners at 61-53. Texas Rangers at 60-56. The Los Angeles Angels at 55-60, who kind of bought at the deadline. And Finally, in last place at 50 and 65 is the Athletics. And moving to the National League. In first place in the National League East, the Philadelphia Phillies are at 65 and 49. Second place is the New York Yankees at 63 and 52. Third place is at the Miami Marlins at only 56 and 57. And the Atlanta Braves are 47 and 65. And the Washington Nationals are in last place at 54 and 68. In my opinion, the Braves did not sell enough at the deadline. They only traded a couple of guys and not even, good top guys that they could probably get a lot of uh, influx of kind of prospect or even younger guys come in. The Washington Nationals, I don't think they did enough to kind of rebuild that organization. The Marlins were kind of a little bit in, a little bit out. They ended up selling a couple players off. I think they could have done a little bit more to improve that team for the future, but they all kind of failed to do that. So the National League Central, the Milwaukee Brewers are 69 and 44 in first place. The Chicago Cubs are 66 and 48. The in third place is the Cincinnati Reds at 60 and 55. The St. Louis Cardinals are at 58 and 58, and the Pittsburgh Pirates at 49 and 66. I don't think that the Pittsburgh Pirates sold enough. Dennis Santana is still on that team. Of course, I don't think you trade Paul Skeens, but anybody who has a potential expiring contract or a flexible contract, I think they should have sold. I think they did a great job uh, trading their third baseman, Ke'Bryan Hayes. I think that they just did not do enough to improve that team for future years because you've only got, I mean, I say only about 3 more years of Paul Skeens left. That's if they don't trade him in the off season or next year or even next off season. I think that you're kind of wasting your time with him if you're not just literally selling everybody and bringing up everybody else and kind of working around to fill in around Paul Skeens and working towards a wild card because once Paul Skeens goes, I mean, before Paul Skeens goes, I think you need to trade him and not just let him go into free agency. Because if you let him go into free agency, the best you're going to get is a compensation pick. And, that is one player. You trade him next year or even this offseason. You trade him this offseason, next deadline, or even next offseason, you're going to get a huge amount of influx of prospects. I'm talking probably if he continues to do what he's doing, probably 6 or 8 prospects that could come in on a trade like that. So you're talking like a huge trade. Of course, it's not a guarantee that any of these prospects will work out. But if you make a trade like that, you're rebuilding your farm system, you're rebuilding your team for the future, and you're not just letting Paul Skeens walk away when he goes and signs a $1 billion contract. So that's kind of my thoughts on the Pittsburgh Pirates. So moving on to the National League West, was a very tight division at the beginning of the year. It is not tight anymore. In first place is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They're 66 and 49. However, just right behind them, this is probably the only team in the West that could potentially make a playoff run. I think is the San Diego Padres. They are 63 and 51, only 2.5 games out of that uh, first place, and they're half a game up in a wild card. So that's definitely the only race to be watching there. Um, so then you have the San Francisco Giants, who are 58 and 57, who completely destroyed themselves after they went and traded for Rafael Devers back in June. They made that huge blockbuster trade in middle of June, a month before the deadline, thinking that it was going to help them then, and they totally have bombed since then. It is a disgrace of what they've done moving forward from that. And in fourth place is a team that everybody thought that they'd be on limbo, but they ended up selling at the deadline. They sold their first baseman, they sold their third baseman. They didn't do enough, in my opinion. They should have sold Zach Gallen. They should have sold. They did sell Merrill Kelly. I'll give them that. But I think if Zach, they could have made Zach Gallen available, he could have went to another contender and potentially had a big influx of decent prospects come in, and they just didn't get that. But I think it was a good enough. They're not very far from being back in contention. They got a good core there in Arizona, and they spent a lot of money. And I think if you move on from a couple of guys, they moved on from Jordan Montgomery, who is a $20 million payroll parasite. You can just move on and move forward. So I think that they're not very far from being back in contention. And the Colorado Rockies are 30-84, and in last place, and probably the worst team in history.
Do they have anything to sell?
They did sell a couple of their bullpen pieces and their third baseman, but that's pretty much all they had to sell. And I mean, I don't know what you do with a team like that. I mean, if I was the owner, of course, I mean, not everybody's about winning baseball.
That's going to be about like starting an expansion team.
If I was the owner, I would go in there and gut. I would fire every coach, every person who works in the general manager room, in his office. I'd fire them all, and I'd restart from the top down.
You almost got to.
Oh, I think you do.
This is, I mean, like I said, I've said this before, but I feel bad for the players.
So
I feel bad for the fans.
There has been rumors that John Mozeliak might go home to Denver.
That's where he's from,
and take that job. That's where his first MLB job was Colorado.
Well, he might. I mean,
so
he'll do better than what they got going on now.
I mean, oh, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
This is pitiful. This is a disgrace. I mean, it's not even funny. There's nothing funny about it. It's really sad.
No.
And I feel, like I said, I feel bad for those professional players that's on that team. They have no hope. What's their reason to go out and battle getting a win? It's not going to do anything for them.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on to some NFL news. Dad, take it away with the biggest NFL news we've got today.
All right. Well, it says the NFL's buzzing with news, including the start of the training camps, players' contract extensions, and a major media right deal. Specifically, the Browns are starting, I don't know his name, Shedeur Sanders, in their preseason opener, while the Rams are locking down Kyren Williams with a new contract. Additionally, ESPN is acquiring and this is pretty big news. ESPN, did you mention this earlier, or kind of did? The ESPN is acquiring the NFL Network and Red Zone from the NFL, with the NFL taking a stake in ESPN, according to ESPN. That's a pretty big deal, and I think the NFL Network was pretty successful. So it sounds like the NFL will probably take a pretty good stake in ESPN, because that would be a lot of money for them just to buy it outright. I think that'll be kind of interesting, because I don't really know a lot about it yet. I think that'll kind of be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But training camps, several teams are kicking off training camps with updates and highlights trickling out, including news on quarterbacks like Sanders and Matthew Stafford's back issues. Apparently, Matthew Stafford is having some back spasms. So
he sleeps on that nice bed. I figured it would be all ready to go.
He shouldn't have that problem. But talk a little bit about some players' news. Not a big deal, but several players are making headlines. Kyren Williams, the Rams are extending his contract. Keenan Allen is returning to the Chargers. And Denzel Perryman, who was released from jail after weapons charges were dropped.
Come on, Denzel. So, you're better than that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And he's very blessed that the charges were dropped.
So does that mean he'll be ready for season? I mean,
Maybe.
did you see
I mean,
anything on
I
that?
think he will be. I mean, he's out of jail and charges have been dropped. So that was
That's an interesting story to keep an eye on as we
it
move
is
into
it
week
is, but he's
one.
very very fortunate the charges were dropped. Because the residual of that was going to be what was going to be bad for him is the fallout. But I think it will really minimize the fallout. Now the charges are being dropped. Again, well, we don't need to talk about the media deal anymore with ESPN. I think it'll be interesting when we get more about that.
Some other news. I don't know if you've noted this, but Micah Parsons out of Dallas requested a trade. Earlier, I
Yeah,
think it was either earlier in the week or end of last week. So I think that's kind of interesting.
surprises me. He's a top linebacker. He's good.
Oh, he's great.
He's one of the probably top 5 linebackers in the league.
Now, is he a linebacker or safety?
Linebacker.
Is he okay? Okay. So let me ask you this: does Jerry trade him before the season, or does he just be petty and keep him on the roster?
I think Jerry will probably trade him but he's going to want a lot for him. He's going
rightfully so.
Yeah, rightfully so. And I'd say he's going to want. Golly, he'll be worth the first round. You don't think?
I don't know if a first round would do it. I don't know if he's worth that much.
I bet he's worth the second and the third.
I would ask for at least a couple second rounds.
Yeah, well, maybe so, but yeah, Jerry will probably ink the deal if the deal's there. You know what I'm saying? But if the deal isn't what he wants it, then he may not. He may not ink it real fast.
So the headline that I'm seeing here, if it'll open, basically states that Jerry Jones not confident in Micah Parsons' plays Cowboys opener. So Jerry Jones, who is the owner and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, is not confident that Pro Bowler edge rusher Micah Parsons will be available for the September 4th season opener against Philadelphia Eagles. He said, "No, absolutely not." Jones said after Tuesday's joint practice with the Los Angeles Rams. A big part of this is his decision. How would I know that? Parsons made a trade request Friday that Jones dismissed as part of negotiation towards a multi-year agreement between the two sides. Since then, Jones has not spoken with Parsons. At one point before practice, they were mere 7 yards apart, and there was no discussion between the team and Parsons' agent, David Miguel. Jones was also asked when the urgency of the deal would increase, and then he eventually said, "I'm urgent." So Parsons is under contract for this season under the fifth-year option of his rookie deal and set to make $21.3 million. Over the weekend, Jones alluded to Dak Prescott and DeMarcus Lawrence playing on the final years of their contracts or on the franchise tag without issue. The Cowboys eventually reached deals on mega extensions with both players. Parsons has been taking part in walkthroughs each day, but not any drills. He spent a portion of Tuesday's workout talking to former Rams tackle Andrew Whitworth, who has been a mentor for him for years. He has not spoken to the media since delivering the trade request. In March, Jones believed he and Parsons had reached an agreement on a deal when it come to contract length, guarantees, and overall money, stating that what he offered a hell of a lot more than what you think or what you think I did. Jones also referred to guaranteed somebody almost $200 million. Parsons asked Cowboys to contact his agent, and then things have been stalemate since. Asked if Parsons need to reach out to him, Jones said, "Y'all are getting what's in the mind or what's in the said. This is a good time. He's subject matter. It is what it is. We'll work through it, or we will not work through it at all. So this is via ESPN, Todd Archer on the article there. So that was the article talking about Micah Parsons and the whole.
He just Jerry
Jerry
thinks Micah
Jones.
will lay down on the year, don't he? Is what he thinks.
Yes.
And I don't know much about his character, though. Really, I don't know how Jerry would know it better than me. So I don't know. He needs to have a new home, though. He just if that's the way he feels, and that's what he wants. He's too good to not give him a new home. Get him a new home and let the Cowboys get their compensation.
Yes.
Decided upon and move forward.
I agree with that. So there's definitely places that he could go and work through that. So all right, you want to continue on here?
Okay. See, we were talking about some extensions. The Eagles acquired a cornerback, Jack Conan Bennett from the Raiders, and don't know any kind of details on that contract. It really never elaborated. And unfortunately, there's a few injuries. J.C. Horn is day to day after the car accident. Did you hear about that? He had a car accident.
Yes, I saw that.
And Matthew Stafford is dealing with some aggravated disc in his back that's causing some back spasms. So that's not good, for your starting quarterback to be dealing with that right now. Hopefully he can get that, under control, and they can get him some, some relief from that, because, opening day's coming up real quick, Said notable quotes. Mike Vrabel got bloodied breaking up a fight at joint practice. Sean Payton had an interesting comment about drafting Bo Nix too. So
who was Vrabel and them practicing with?
Didn't say. I didn't get all the details on that. I don't think they wanted to say. I'm sure that it's there now, but I'm not exactly sure. But apparently it was a pretty nasty fight. Of course, Vrabel's a big old. He's kind of a junkyard dog. He'll get right in the middle of it.
Commanders.
Commanders.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so
competitive juices were flowing there.
What did Sean Payton have to say about drafting Bo Nix?
I think just the complexities of it, I think, is what he was talking about. I didn't take the rest of the article down there because it seemed like it was very long. I just thought it was kind of interesting that he, if anybody's interested in that, you can go into it. But I don't know, he made it sound like there was a lot of complexities to it. I don't know, it might be something you want to look at too. But I don't know. What I was reading the article, I guess he's happy about it.
It says here, how about so this is just talking. It don't really say what's going on, but I think he'll do good. That I think they're here kind of comparing him to L.A. and they're talking like that. Peyton wants a franchise guy. So I think Bo Nix is your franchise guy.
Yeah, I think I think that was what Peyton, was wanting to get, was, obviously that franchise guy, and put all of his efforts towards it. And I think they had to jump through some hoops to get to him. I don't know what they had to trade up or trade down or whatever, but I think they had to do some stuff to get him. And I think he's happy about it. I mean, so. But that's really about all the NFL stuff I have for you right now. I mean, I think it's going to get really interesting when season opens. Then we can really talk about some stuff and get away from all the boring stuff. And we're not far from it. What are we? Less than a month.
Yeah, I mean it's
3 weeks or so.
Yeah, right at a month. Preseason should start this weekend.
Right. Well, there was a game last weekend, wasn't
it? Well, it was the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all I have for you on the NFL side of things.
That's it. So we thank you guys for joining in and listening. We hope you all have a good week and a good rest of your night, rest of your day, whenever you might be listening. And we appreciate you guys for joining in. We will see you on the next time.
Good night, everybody, and God bless.